Hello, everybody. This is Jason Sukamel, orangebloods.com. I'm here with our Road Warrior recruiting analyst, Cole Patterson. Big recruiting weekend for Texas this weekend. If you haven't paid attention, 5 official visitors coming in for Texas. That's big news in itself. 5 official visitors, all from out of state. Cole, those are the guys that people get excited about. But let's be honest, man, all due respect to those guys, and we'll talk about those guys. The big story this weekend is the visit of Arch Manning coming in on an unofficial visit. It'll be a second time on campus. He was here in June, in Austin on June for a 2-day visit. He's here for an entire weekend. He'll be back this weekend for an unofficial visit. Kind of, for those who haven't followed it, he's taking a tour of about 5 campuses. He's visited Georgia. He's visited Alabama a couple weeks ago. He'll be at Texas this weekend. Then he goes to Ole Miss, and he finishes off with Clemson on Halloween weekend. So this is Texas's chance to really make its mark. Maybe the last time they get him on campus before he decides, depending on when Arch Manning makes his decision. There's some talk that he might decide next spring. Who knows? Maybe even later this fall to kind of get some recruiting momentum for wherever he picks. Cole, I mentioned Cole's kind of our road warrior. I'm the old gray in the beard dude who chases kids around and works the phones. Cole is our road warrior. You were in New Orleans a couple weeks ago. You actually got some FaceTime with Arch Manning, with people around him. You got to talk to other sources. Cole, I want to hear from you. When you talked to Arch, what did you think his excitement level was about this upcoming trip to Austin?
Yeah, like you said, I was down there not too long ago. I got to talk to Arch face to face, got to talk to his coach, got to talk to some other people that kind of know his recruitment, just around him and everything like that. And, I talked to him after his game on that Friday. He threw like 5 touchdowns and only played like 2.5 quarters. It's pretty impressive. And just talking to him after the game, right when I asked him about, Sark and AJ Moe and just Texas in general, his like face lit up. That honestly, I didn't really see his face light up when anybody else asked him about Alabama or Georgia or anything like that. Um, he's a huge fan of Sarkisian and just his offensive mind. He sees what he did at Alabama, putting players in the best positions to succeed. Excuse me. But yeah, he told us that he enjoyed his visit to Austin in the summer. He even said it felt like a home feel to him. He compared Austin to where he's from in New Orleans. He kind of said the vibes pretty similar. He was able to hit it off with some Texas players during his visit, like Hudson Card, players like that. He also started developing a relationship with, Jonte Cook out of DeSoto and Ruben Owens out of El Campo.
2 guys
Two
who will be in
huge,
Austin this weekend, by the way.
yeah, yeah, 2 huge priorities for Texas as well in their own right. And I asked him, "Hey, I know you developed a relationship with those 2 guys. I believe him and Ruben actually went to Athens together for that Georgia game." So I just asked him about that relationship, not even in regards to Texas, just about that. But he said, yeah, they've actually talked about maybe playing together, and it'd be really cool. And like you said, they're all 3 of them are going to be on campus together this weekend. It's going to give Texas another chance to sell them on playing together again. But as far as Arch goes, he really loves Sarkisian. He really loves the city of Austin. And I think Texas is in a really great position right now. I was talking to him, also talking to his coach. His coach told me that, Sarkisian's done a great job of building a relationship with Arch and just with him himself. Coach Nelson Stewart, he's, been through this process before with Odell Beckham, with guys like that. He knows what the recruiting process is like. And he told Orange Bloods that Sark's probably done the best job of developing that relationship. So my trip down there was nothing but positive news for Texas. And in my opinion, I think he's just waiting to see, Texas, do something to make him commit. I think the Longhorns are in the driver's seat right now, and they just need they need to win. They need to put on a good offensive performance on Saturday, and I think that will go a long way in his recruitment.
Yeah, this again a huge game against Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously for Big 12 reasons, but building recruiting
Yeah.
momentum. We saw last week Texas had a chance to maybe kind of explode this powder keg of momentum. They let it
Yeah.
slip through their grasp against Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do that this weekend against Oklahoma State. It's interesting you mentioned the relationship building part of it. Recruiting, for those of us who've done it a long time and follow it closely, I mean, it's mostly about relationships, man. Relationships guys like Arch Manning want to go somewhere they're going to win. Arch is a different cat, though, man. He's got a
Mhm.
really good support base around him. Obviously,
Yeah.
his dad Cooper. He's got two uncles that'll probably be in the Hall of Fame. His dad Archie. So,
Yeah.
Arch is a little bit different dissecting him than others, but I feel like he probably comes on these visits, like you said, Cole. He's going to look at this game. He's not just a fan just watching the ball fly around, man. He's going to
Yeah.
watch offensive line play. He's going to
Mhm.
probably mentally be evaluating schemes and breaking things down. I wouldn't be surprised if the coaches, it's an 11 a.m. kick, so we'll see when he gets to Austin. I know a
Mhm.
couple weeks ago the Texas coaches had Brendan Thompson come in the day before the game, and they kind of sat down with Brendan and said, "Hey, let's look at some film stuff so you can then watch it unfold
Mhm.
at the game." If Arch comes in on Friday and we're working to pin down the details of his travel itinerary, I wouldn't be surprised if the coaches
Yeah.
did that. Arch, listen, he went to Georgia for that first fall visit, and you saw it
Mhm.
on social media. The Georgia fans had "We want Arch" painted on their chests.
Yeah.
That probably works with some teenagers. I don't think that
Mhm.
really is going to move the needle with Arch Manning.
That was yeah, we actually asked him about them after the game about that after the game, and he was like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, I saw about it. Some of my friends showed me on social media, but I didn't see it at the game." And he didn't really seem. I mean, I'm sure he thought it was cool, but it didn't really. It's
yeah.
not a big factor to him, you
Now,
know.
Arch is looking at a much bigger and much deeper picture
Yeah.
than fans painting their chest. Hey, and that's not to say
Mhm.
Texas fans can't help their cause by going out there and being loud and rowdy
Yeah.
on Saturday, but I think Arch is a little bit more cerebral than probably your
Mhm.
typical recruit. And so is listen, when Peyton Manning and Eli Manning and Archie Manning and Cooper Manning are the guys who are probably advising him, there's not
Mhm.
much you're going to be able to tell those guys that they haven't seen before. I mean, what do you feel like it is? I know when you came back from your visit down there, you reported, I think Arch's comment was like, and I'm going to kind of summarize here, but it was like, oh, they're just really laid back dudes or they're cool
Yeah.
guys. I mean, what do you think, if you can put it in your words after talking to Arch, what do you think Sark and Milwee and that staff, what are they doing maybe differently than the other staff that's allowing them to relate
Mhm.
so well? Is it just the fact that they're not putting pressure tactics on Arch and they're talking to him about other things in football? I mean, what do you think it is that makes Arch so comfortable with the Texas coaches?
Yeah, talking to Arch himself and just some different sources, like I said, is that know his recruitment firsthand. They all say the same thing, including Arch himself, that Sark has done a great job of developing that relationship from the start. One source actually told me that it's not very common for a head coach to, take over the reins of a recruitment. Not even take over. He's been in the driver's seat of this
Yeah.
recruitment since day one. And often you see that handed to a quarterback coach or to a coordinator. When you're a head coach, you're game planning for opponents, things of that nature.
Well, didn't
But
you
Sark
say,
has
I think
made,
you reported, Cole, like Alabama, it
Mhm.
was the D coordinator had been the lead
Yeah,
recruiter, and now Saban is
yeah,
getting more involved, which, listen, man, I'm
hmm
never going to question Alabama's recruiting tactics,
hmm
but when you reported that, I was
uh-huh.
like, man, that's kind of an interesting way to go about recruiting Arch
Yeah, for
Manning.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, Pete Golding, he has that. He's from Louisiana. I guess he's recruited South for a while. So, I mean, I makes sense in the sense that he has the relationships with Louisiana coaches. But yeah, it is pretty interesting for a D coordinator to take over the reins of like probably the most recognizable recruit at quarterback and maybe we've ever seen when the prestige, the family, everything like that. Yeah, that Sark and it's not just Sark either. It's AJ Millie. He's also made a big impression on both Arch and his coach Nelson Stewart. From what I was told from Arch, Arch was saying they're laid back people. They're, good guys. That's the thing that stuck out to me. He kept saying they're good guys over and over again. And, a different question I asked was what is going to, win over your recruitment and things like that. And he wouldn't give me the number one thing or anything that's going to win over his recruitment, but he did say that relationships and being around good people is going to play a huge role in whatever he decides to play. So that kind of stuck out to me. But yeah, as far as what they're doing, Sark's a guy that Zooms with Arch, has been talking to Arch. He's the guy that's been checking up on him consistently, not even just about football or recruiting, just from that relationship aspect. And that I think that's something that stuck out to Arch and really that whole family as a whole. That they know his offensive prowess, and they know what he can do on the field. They know that he can put skilled players and quarterbacks in the best position to succeed. But I think what it comes down to is the Texas staff has really prioritized Arch as both a recruit and as a person. They're I was told that, his coach told me that if he himself, Nelson Stewart, wanted to talk to Sark, then he would pick up the phone immediately. It's not, hey, I've practiced, or hey, I have this going on. It's like, no, he's always available. He's always checking in on Arch, and he's kind of doing the same with tight end Will Randall, who's also a guy that Texas wants. And
Another
Arch's
guy who will be
teammates.
here this weekend. He'll be coming in again this
Yeah.
weekend too.
He doesn't get the publicity that or hype that Arch does. I mean, nobody does,
Yeah,
but he's a good
exactly.
player. He's a good player in his own right. He has an LSU offer. He visited Texas over summer with Arch, things of that. So they've really built that relationship with Arch, with Will, and that whole staff. And I think that's really paying dividends. Like you said, defensive coordinator at Alabama is kind of taking over that recruitment. At Alabama, Saban's get more involved. I know Clemson's quarterback coach is the guy there. Uh, I was told that Kirby hasn't really taken over the reins yet right now, that they've kind of left it to the coordinator and quarterback coach. So from what I understand, it's really Sark, and Sark's been the head coach that's taken over this recruitment, made the best relationship with Arch. And as I was saying earlier, I think Texas just has to prove it on the field that they can win. I think Arch is theirs to lose right now.
It has to help when your head coach is he's not the quarterback coach, AJ Milway, but he's your offensive coordinator. He's the guy. I mean, listen, he's offensive coordinator at Alabama,
Plays.
Which is different than Kirby Smart. Even Saban is more of a defensive mind. So that's probably a benefit for Texas. I'll be curious to, when Arch came in the first time in June, it was a big recruiting weekend. Texas had a bunch of recruits there, and Arch certainly got the red carpet treatment, which he's going to get no matter where he goes.
Yeah.
But it was almost in a weird kind of way a detriment. Some of the other guys were like, hey, why is Arch getting more attention than us? So I'll be curious to see how Texas is going to balance that this weekend, because you're going to have a lot of the same recruits. You're going to have, like I said, 5 big official visitors in that 2022 class. It'll be in all weekend. It's an 11 a.m. kickoff. So Sark has mentioned before, he likes that, because then he'll have Saturday afternoon and Saturday night to hang out and go to dinner. Again, they're going to have to balance that with the official visitors, balance that time, then also with Arch. Does Arch show up with the official visitors at dinner? I don't know. We'll have to see what they have planned. I'm sure Texas has some tricks up its sleeve, some plans. What do you think Texas needs to show Arch this weekend? I mean, when he was here last time, the stadium wasn't finished, the facilities weren't finished. He'll get to see all that kind of thing. That'll help. I mean, every kid wants to see the facilities. They want to see the shiny toys and the bells and whistles. Are you like me, Cole? To me, it's more going to come down to what Texas shows between 11 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. on the field. I mean, they need to show, let's face it, I think probably they need to show better offensive line play, or if they can't have an offensive line play like it did against Oklahoma, because Arch is going to think, hey, whoa, they're going to have to get that fixed. Getting Xavier Worthy the ball, getting some of those young guys the ball, obviously Casey Thompson playing well. What do you think Texas can show and needs to show Arch to maybe, kind of put that nail in the coffin, if you will, if they want to close this deal out?
Yeah, just real quick, what you're talking about, the red carpet and everything like that. Arch will be playing on Thursday this week. That will be on NBC Sports.
And the Texas coaches will be at that game.
Yep. Yeah, we reported in the War Room last week that Sark and Millie will both be there. And I don't think that's anything to gloss over. It's not even like Texas has a bye week. Like, they have a top 25 matchup on Saturday, and they're taking time out of their schedule to see Arch when Arch is going to be on campus. It's not like Arch is going somewhere else and they're trying to, sway him before he goes there. Arch is going to be there, and they're still taking that time, which I think is pretty important. And so they're going to see him, and they'll also give Arch the opportunity to come in on Friday, because you won't have to worry about the game. I know people are worried about the 11 a.m. kickoff. He won't be playing a Friday night game and having to get up really early from New Orleans. I think that's a pretty big benefit right there for Texas, how it worked out that way out. He's playing on Thursday and all of that. And like you said, the red carpet, I think it helps Texas that he already visited. And over the summer, I know he visited other schools as well, but he has already seen the campus. He already had the red carpet pulled out for him. And I think the relationship's developed even more now, so they don't have to pull out all the bells and whistles, if that makes sense. They don't have to go out put all the focus on him, because I feel like Arch, just me getting a sense from him, I don't think he's a guy that I wouldn't say he hates the attention, because, I mean, you're a high school kid. You obviously want that attention, but I don't think it's that important to him either. And like you said, everybody's gonna give him all that attention. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think they know how to balance it now. But as far as Saturday goes, yeah, I don't think one game is gonna sway anybody's recruitment one way or the other if they blow Oklahoma State out or if they lose. But I don't think they can afford to have a bad offensive performance if they struggle, like you said, pass protection, if they struggle moving the ball down the field, if the atmosphere isn't great. I'm not going to say that's going to make him remove Texas out of the picture or anything like that, but I think it would go a long way in Texas, you know, doing what they did against Oklahoma, at least offensively, moving up the ball down the field, getting the ball to Xavier Worthy, showing that they can be explosive and everything like that. And like you said, he's not a fan that's just going to be there for fun and everything like that. Like, I'm sure he's going to enjoy it, but he's going to be looking at what Sark's doing for Casey Thompson, how the offensive line is blocking, and picturing how he can fit into that offense. And I think if they have a good offensive performance, if they're able to score some points against Oklahoma State, who's a top 25 team, top 15 opponent, I think that can go a long way because, like I said, they have their relationships. They have, he's been to Austin. He's a big fan of Austin, everything like that. If they can just win and, make it to the Big 12 championship, if they can put some offensive performance together, I think that it's going to be pretty hard, at least from from my impression, what I've gathered. I think it's going to be pretty hard if that all happens for Arch to turn down Texas when you add everything together. So I think Arch is going to be looking for that offensive line play. He's going to be looking for Sark to put his best players in position, see how Casey Thompson does. And just real quick, I do think it's pretty, there was that quote Xavier Worthy said, how he fumbled it. And then Sark was like, put that smile on your face. We're coming back to you. I think that's pretty big. It shows that Sark isn't going to put a guy in the doghouse or, he still believes in the guy. And I think that's pretty important. So I think Arch is going to be looking for all those different things on Saturday.
Yeah, that's a good point. That move by Sark, A, it worked because where they bounced back and almost helped them come back in that game. But B, someone asked me about that, and I was like, that's a great selling point. I don't know that it's going to resonate with recruits. It probably will, a guy like Arch, but it'll resonate with high school coaches and parents of recruits who are like, hey, man, I want my kid to play for a guy like that. If he screws up, he's not going to berate him on the sidelines. I think you're right, Cole. I think this recruitment is almost past the relationship building stage. Texas has done a great job with that already. They've laid the foundation there. Arch being able to come on Friday because he has a game Thursday is, like you said, it's a huge benefit for Texas because they can get some one-on-one time with Arch where they don't have to do all the balancing act that I mentioned they'll have to do on Saturday. Maybe they get him in the film room with them and kind of go over some of the things so he can see it, and then he can see it transpire on Saturday too. He's the only quarterback they've offered in that 2023 recruiting class. I mean, I don't want to say all Texas's eggs are in the Arch Manning basket. I mean, they kind of are for right now. Might that change at some point? Maybe, but he is the guy they are prioritizing as much as any player in the 2022 class even. So that's how big a deal this is. That's how big of a weekend this is. And Arch is a guy, I mean, let's be honest, I mean, he's a Manning. He's a quarterback. I mean, he's the number one player in the country. What else do you need to hear? He's a guy, wherever he goes, if it's Texas, if it's Alabama, and Alabama doesn't need help, or Clemson, but if he goes to Texas, this is a guy that can springboard this Texas program from a recruiting perspective. These guys Texas is battling with now, and they've missed out on some of these guys in the 2022 class. You know what? 2023 receivers are going to look at, if Arch Manning's coming to Texas, an offensive lineman, I want to block for that guy. I want to catch the ball from Arch Manning. So just a huge, and they'll have some of those guys on campus this weekend. So huge development overall. Cole, I want to it sounds like you kind of feel like Texas is the team to beat. I want to get you to go on record. I've said all along, man, I've said it for 8 or 9 months. I said, hey, I don't know that Texas is the team to beat, but I said, there's not a team I would put ahead of Texas. It just, everything about it made sense with Sark, the city of Austin. Eli Manning was very fond of his trips to the city of Austin when he was a recruit. Texas moving to the SEC now. I mean, everything about it, the NIL opportunities, everything about it just made sense at Texas. And I've been doing this long enough. I remember when Eli was a recruit and Chris Sims, I was covering those guys back then. And as big as a story that was when Chris Sims committed to Texas, it's a different world, man. This is Arch Manning. With respect to Phil Sims, this is Arch Manning.
Mhm.
of the Manning hierarchy there.
Yeah.
Things are covered a lot more closely. People get a lot more excited. I mean, this is the biggest
I
recruiting.
found that out firsthand. You know,
What's
I
that?
tweeted that quote. I said I found that out
Oh,
firsthand.
yes,
I tweeted
yes,
that
your quote
quote
went
after.
viral. Yeah, about Austin
Yeah,
feels like home. Yeah, that's right.
I knew
So,
it was going to get some love,
but you
just
didn't know it,
because
you didn't
of
know like
Texas
national
fan.
news publications would
I
pick
didn't
it
know
up.
the New York Post would pick it up.
Yes. Well, good for
I was
you,
like,
man. That's
oh
what
wow, okay.
put the legwork to go down there. So good for you. But I'm like
Uh-huh.
you, man. I've thought Texas was at worst tied for the top, and just what I've seen from this Texas offense, hearing your report on his relationship with Stark, you talking to other
Mhm.
sources, which sometimes that's where you get your best actual intel, not from the
Yeah.
kid himself, from other sources. I think Texas is in the driver's seat here. I think they've got to just close it out. Like you said, they've got to show him things this weekend
Hmm.
and just kind of solidify what he's already seen. Handicap it for me. I mean, it sounds like you think Texas is a team to beat. Who would you think might be nipping at their heels if you had to pick?
Yeah, I do. Like you said, I do think Texas is the team to beat. But this is a recruitment I think is, I want to say far from over because I do think he wants to make a decision in the spring, but he's not. He's also not going to hold himself to anything either. But yeah, I think if Texas wins and puts on impressive performances, I do think they'll be hard to beat. If they, aren't unable to get up after that Oklahoma defeat, they let that turn into another loss. Offensive line play continues to be bad, stuff like that, then things could flip. But as of right now, I do think Texas is that team to beat, and it's definitely the favorite. With that being said, it's hard. Like you said, you can't ever question Nick Saban.
Yeah.
And they have Pete Golding, defense coordinator recruiting him. Bill O'Brien just got into Alabama, so after being in the NFL, so he's probably catching up on those relationships as well. But it's hard to turn down Alabama when you have that offer, when you have all that skill talent around you. You don't really have to worry about is their offensive line going to be developed. I mean, their left tackle is going to be like a top 5 pick this year. Evan Neal. They have receivers that they receive, that you could dream of throwing to.
They
So
broke Longhorns fans' hearts with the Brockermeyer brothers. They've got guys like that
yeah,
waiting in the
yeah.
wings, so they're going to
Yeah,
reload.
they got JoJo Early from Alito. They said, they have the Texas. They do have Louisiana ties as well. I think they're definitely a team that's going to be in it for sure. Um, talking to a source, Cooper Manning is not pressuring Arch Manning to consider Ole Miss or anything like that. But I do think there's something there. I was told Lane Kiffin's another coach has kind of been aggressive with Arch. I don't think he has the relationship that Stark does at the moment, but I know he's high on their offensive coordinator, Jeff Levy. I think with that legacy factor, I think if they finish the year out strong offensively, I think they could be next factor in that recruitment. He loves Athens. He loves, Clemson. So, there seems to be, I do think Alabama's probably that number. I think Alabama and Georgia are right there. But like I said, I think Kirby Smart's a little bit behind in that recruitment from what I was told, at least. Ole Miss is that X factor that I think can make a run. He's going to be there in Oxford next weekend. They're retiring his uncle Eli's jersey. They're playing LSU, a banged up LSU team. So that should probably be a win for Ole Miss. That environment will be crazy. But yeah, I do think Texas, if they do everything they need to on the field, I think they're the team to beat. And as you were talking about earlier, the recruits are going to want to play with him.
Mhm.
Jonte Cook, I think, from my impressions with Jonte, I think Texas is probably that top team for him. And I think if Arch were to commit, I think that I wouldn't say it's a done deal, but I think that's pretty close to happening if that were to
Feels like that domino
occur.
would fall pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think him and Jonte, talked to, me after that July visit, just saying how much he liked Arch and June and everything. Like, I think they have a pretty close relationship. Ruben Owens, one of the top running backs in the country. That's another guy that could follow him. Like you said, offensive linemen are going to play with Arch Manning. So, talking to a source, Arch won't set a date. He's not going to say, "Oh, I'm committing this day," and if his mind's made up, he's not going to rush into a decision. But I do think, quarterbacks usually do pull the trigger in the spring. They want to help recruit. This could be Texas's last time to make a first-hand impression, at least in a game environment. So this weekend will be huge. But yeah, I do think if Texas, I'll put it this way: I think Texas would have to make a lot of mistakes to lose out on this recruitment as it stands right now.
Wow. Well, there you have it, man. So it's a pretty bold prediction. Should have Texas fans excited. So we're going to put a wrap on this one. Cole, you and I have been talking about doing these recruiting. When did we hired you back in what, August or something like that?
Yeah, last week of July.
July even, and we were like, we've got to
Yeah.
start our own YouTube recruiting channel. So this is our
We'll
first
get that
go at
going.
it. So if everybody liked it, hey, thanks for watching the Orange Bloods YouTube channel. Click the like button, click subscribe, help us get going, and maybe Cole and I will do more of these in the future. Lots to talk about. Recruiting has been going really well for Texas. Again, I'm not going to go through them all, but I've got a list here of all the names that we've confirmed coming in this weekend. There are a lot of national top 100s.
Big weekend.
5 official visitors coming in this weekend. We'll have coverage of those guys Saturday after the game. We'll have some recruits' reactions. We will have coverage of the official visitors on Sunday after they leave campus, bleeding into next week. Cole and I will be tracking those guys down, talking to different sources, seeing what kind of impression Texas made, and see if they can move the needle with some of these guys. So appreciate everybody watching. Cole, thank you for your time. This is Cole Patterson. I'm Jason Sukamel, orangebloods.com. Everybody stay tuned. Like I said, click the like button, click the follow button, ring that bell for us, and appreciate you watching. We'll be back soon.